Hello, welcome to another another video for on base baseball. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer of On Base Baseball, and in this video, I'm going to show you a new game that I've been working on. So I released On Base back in April, I believe, with the first season 2019. And then have been working through a more advanced version of the game called On Base Advance, which I released about mid-season. And toward the end of the season, I'd had this idea for a baseball manager game where you sort of focus more on managing the game as opposed to focusing on the players per se, or a full game. So it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially, you would be, the plays would be as the manager of the game. Now you're watching the game play out, but the gameplay, the interaction of the game is for the manager side. So I released Quick Play Baseball because I realized while I was sort of fleshing out this bigger idea that there was kind of a quick play game that happened before, and he uses these little situation cards like this, and it sort of lent itself to a real quick play game. So I released that. People really enjoyed that, and I'm glad, thankful for everybody who's purchased that. But really, it was kind of a pit stop on the way to a bigger game, and that was always the intention. So I'm just going to go through the components of this bigger game today. I think I have all the components at least to start out and start letting people play a demo of the game. First thing we have here is it's just a game board. You see you have a little square for outs, so 0, 1, or 2 outs. And the concept of the game is that you have your cards, and you flip your situation card. Now you need to, on the game board, you need to recreate this. So you would put a marker here to represent the runner on first, and with 1 out, you would put the marker here. And so you sort of set the game board to be the beginning of the inning. You could do it in your head, but I like having this visual representation. Sort of helps me keep track of what's going on in the inning, because unlike Quick Play Baseball, in Tabletop Manager, which is what I'm calling this, you play out the rest of the inning. So your inning starts here with a runner on first and 1 out. So that's sort of like dropping you into the middle of the inning. And then you're going to play out every at bat until you reach 3 outs in the inning. And then for the next inning, you pull another card. And then the next half inning, let's say this is for the visiting team, the top of the first. This would be for the home team, the bottom of the second. So they would have 2 outs, nobody on. And then they would move them through the lineup. They would go 3 batters down in the lineup. So it sort of works you through how you got there, kind of. But it doesn't tell you, what happened on the plays before you got there. So there's no real way to keep statistics necessarily. But you can keep stats on wins and losses and things like that, pitching changes and stuff. So these are called situation cards. Let's move that out. So these are situation cards. We have 20. There are 2 per 9 innings. I think there are 18. There's enough to play 1 whole game, just shuffling once. You can see they come in different flavors. some with runners on, some with no runners on. It's 2 on and 2 out. So basically, you would just take these during the game, and for each half inning, you would just flip one over, set the inning, and so your inning would start with bases loaded and 2 outs. You would move your player marker for your roster from the previous inning. You would go down 6 spots in the batting order, and then that would be the person at bat. You can see more about how to play by checking out Quick Play Baseball, which that's sort of the essence of Quick Play Baseball, is using the situation cards to set the inning and then resolve the inning. The next part that we have is these are roll cards. And I put them in a card form and not a chart because I just thought it would be easier to kind of flip through them and keep them together. But basically, it's for different types of players. So the A is a rating, and all the way through E. And the A rating is for players who have a batting runs value of that season of 30 plus. So this is 30 plus is like a MVP caliber player. So you're talking top 5 type of player in the league. And so you can see here, characteristics of a top 5 player, that they hit a lot of home runs, at least in modern baseball. And so, if you know the percentages of 2 through 12 rolls, you know that, there's not a very good percentage of a 2 or a 12, but they sort of crescendo. The percentages go up to the middle, and they sort of crescendo at a 7, like this, and so that's your highest percentage card, and then they sort of descend as you go back down to 12. Just the probabilities of rolling those particular numbers with 2 die, or 2 dice, or with if you had 2 sets of playing cards, 1 to 6, and you flip one and you flip another, and then you add them together, you would sort of get the same percentages. So very few players are going to be an A. Some players are going to be a B, which is batting runs 20 to 30. These are sort of all-star caliber players, not quite at the Mike Trout level or Babe Ruth level or some of the bigger stars. But, these are your solid everyday all-stars. Marcus Semien is the first one that comes to mind. That type of player, Matt Olson. Right? And so you can see that their home run is at a 3, which is a little bit less, but still, a pretty good home run clip. And all of these different outcomes are basically you roll the dice or you flip the cards. You combine the 2 together, the 2 numbers. So if you roll a 3 and a 3, that's a 6. You just add the 2 numbers, and then you would look at a 6 here. And the result of the play is a ground ball. So we have ground balls. Obviously, there's an automated home run here. We have fly balls, ground balls, strikeouts, so automatic strikeouts. And there are walks as well. You can see 5 is a walk. So the walk, the K percentages, those are all based off of I literally took all the qualified players at each level for the season. This is 2021. And what I did was I just averaged them all. And then, this is, the average number of walks for this B-type player is the percentage. It's very close to the percentage at 5. I only have 12 outcomes to work with, so they're in the range of those particular numbers. Same with the Ks, and the same with the home runs. Now, ground balls and fly balls, I'll show you You can see that there's no direct outcomes like doubles, triples, singles, things like that are on here. Those come off of the ground ball or the fly ball cards. So we have a C player. C player is someone from 0 to 20. It's sort of an average major league player, average to above average. And then a D is for any player less than 0, which is, 0 is going to be your middle. So these are below average players you can see here. They had to roll a 12 to get a home run. It's technically the same percentage for a C player to get a home run. I find that rolling a 2 comes up somewhat more frequently than rolling a 12. And then we have a special card here for pitchers and for players with no home runs. You can see that there's no home run on the card. So you could use this for pitchers. You could use this for like really weak hitting players. And there's a guy, Belanger, who played for the early 70s Orioles. Consistently no home runs, 1 home run. So you could use that kind of card for a player like that. So those are the player cards, the roll cards. So when you do a roll card, it's either a strikeout, it's a ground ball, a fly ball, or a walk. And so if it's a ground ball, we have these ground ball cards here. You can see them. There's quite a few of them. I don't know. There's maybe 12 or so. I think there's 12 of the ground ball and 12 of the fly balls. But you can see here, and you would just basically have them in a pile. And then if the ground ball came up, you would flip the top card. And so for an A player with this card, it's a single past the shortstop. For a B player, it's a sharp single up the middle. For a C player, it's a 2-hopper to first, and that would be an out. For a D player, it's a ground ball to short. And if there's a runner on first, then it's an automatic double play. But each one is different, For an A player on this one, it's a ground ball to first base, ground ball to second, a C is a single up the middle, and a D is a ground ball to third base. So these are actually, there are more hits, there are more safe hits for A and B players than for C and D players. And I tried to grade those out as well, based off of each player's, each rating, each level of rating. So those are ground balls, and then the play is basically just resolved. There's also fly balls. So let's say for this one, if it was a fly ball, an A player would fly out to left center, B player would fly out to left, C player would fly out and be a sliding catch by the right fielder, and then a D player would fly out to the warning track in center field. Now that it doesn't seem like much, but with a runner on third base and you fly out to the warning track, that's going to be a sacrifice fly, automatic run for anybody, even for the slowest runners, right? So some of these, it is important that it's a fly ball, that the player makes a sliding catch, or that it's hit to the warning track. Here is a triple off the right field wall, fly ball to right center, fly out to short left, fly out to short right. Now it's important with the short plays too, because defensive positioning does come into it. And so depending on whether the ball's hit far to the warning track, or it's hit short, or on a line drive, or a blooper, different defensive plays can actually interact with that play and change the outcome. So that's fly balls and ground balls. And then the last piece is the manager card. So these are These are offense and defense cards. You can see here there's quite a few. These are the offense cards. You can see there's a steal, you can hit and run, take an extra base or tag up. Those are a little bit different. And some of the others here. And you can just drop down a substitution card if you need to pinch hit. There's a squeeze bunt. There's a bunt for a hit, and then there's a sacrifice bunt. And so let's say we wanted to play the bunt for a hit, right? Then you would say, I want a bunt for a hit. You'd lay the card, and then you'd roll. And then based on these rolls here, this is the outcome. So a roll of a 2 would be an error on the throw to first base, and the runner's safe, right? Everybody moves up one base. Everybody's safe. If you roll a 3, the batter's out, and there's a double play. If a double play at second base, if there are runners on, so let's say you had runners at first and second, you try to bunt for a hit, and you rolled a 3, it would be a double play from second to first. The runner at third would advance to, or runner at second would advance to third if you had less than 2 outs, or less than, if it was 0 outs. If it was 1 out, then obviously the double play gets you out the inning. If it was 2 outs, then I guess you just take the play at first base. That's what you would do. If you roll a 4 to 6, the third baseman makes the out at first. You roll a 7 to a 9, the second baseman. So like a push bunt or a drag for a left-handed batter. Second baseman makes the out at first. And then for a 10 to 12, then the batter's safe. So the bunt for a hit was successful. Sacrifice bunt, same thing. A 2 is an error on the throw to first. A 3 is the bunt was unsuccessful, and the lead runner is out. So you had a runner on first base and you're trying to get him to second. Lay down the bunt, bad bunt, throw it to second base, the lead runner's out, and you're back in the same position where you were. But on a 4 to a 12, the bunt's successful, and then you move on. Runners move up, batters out at first. Some have, like there's a provision here for double steals. So you have your sort of outcomes. You say, I want to steal the base. You roll, and then there's an outcome here for just a single steal, and then an outcome here for a double steal. So some of these cards have that. On a hit and run, it's a little bit more special. If the play result, you say, I'm going to hit and run. And if the play result is a single, then the runner takes an extra base. So basically it was successful. If it's a double, the runner scores, regardless where they are. If it's a strikeout, then the runner's out at second on a double play. So strike them out, throw them out. If it's a fly out, then the runner just goes back to the original base, a ground out. The runner advances safely to the next base. This is a typo here. So you can see how these things just sort of play out based on what happens in the game. So those are your offensive cards. And finally, we have sort of 2 sets of defensive cards, one for the infield and one for the outfield. So infield cards, and these are sort of loosely based on the same sorts of decisions that you would make in a game like Out of the Park. In fact, I looked just to see if there were some plays that maybe I had missed, but you can see there's quite a few just for the infield here. So you can play a double play depth, and this is really only affected If the ground ball is to second or short, it's just an increased chance of getting a double play. You can play your infield in. So if a ground ball is hit to an infielder, that's really when that's going to come into play. You can do pickoff attempts. And so for the most part, the runners, it's a very small chance that the runner is going to be picked off, but there's a chance if you want to try a pickoff play. But there's also a chance you could throw the ball away. So risk and reward is built into all of these managerial decisions. Corners in, there's a lot of things that could happen when you bring the corners in. Could make an error and everybody's safe. Here the third baseman can't field it cleanly, and so he makes the out at first. If there's a runner on third, then that runner is going to score. Same thing with the first baseman. The majority of the plays are for, from 5 to 10, the runner is going to score. So you're going to make the play at first. And I'm sorry, for the majority of those plays, they're going to make the out at home. So the third baseman does field it. If it's a contact play, we're going home. If it's not a contact play, then you're looking the runner back and going to first, right? And then obviously there's an 11 and a 12 here, which there's a single, so there's an opportunity to get a base knock when the corners are playing in. You can do an intentional walk. There's also pitcher substitutions. You can hold the runner. So we had the pickoff play before, but if you decide you want to hold the runner, and this is for a single steal, this is for a double steal. So if you're holding the runners and they decide to steal anyway, you would use these. Defensive ones, so it's a little bit more difficult. By about 10 or 11%, it's a little bit more difficult to steal when you're holding the runner. So those are our infield cards. And then you also have quite a few outfield options as well. You can see there's a lot here. You can play the outfield in, which basically allows the runners to only advance one base on a ground ball, single, or a hit. So if you think about it, you hit one through the hole at third and short, and the outfielder is there, runners aren't going to be able to advance two bases or to be able to take an extra base because you're getting to the ball so quickly. For any fly balls to the warning track, that becomes a double because obviously it's hit over your head now. There's no sacrifice fly on normal flyouts because you're playing in, you're playing close. Bloopers and line drives become outs instead of hits, so that's sort of your reward. There's a couple of reward plays. There's a risk play here, and then deep flyouts become doubles. So anything hit deep over your head, that's the risk that you take with playing the infield man. You can guard the lines, so any fly balls into the gap, so left center, right center field become doubles, and then any balls hit down the line become out, and ground balls down the line, you keep the runner at first base. So instead of getting an opportunity to go to second, any ground ball down the line, the runner holds it first. You can shift your outfield to the left. That should go here. So you can do a little shift here for a ground ball that affects where the ball's hit. You can pitch around a batter. So if you don't want that batter to have the opportunity to harm you, then you can pitch around them. And if you would just say, I'm pitching around this batter, you roll, and then you use this chart, I guess, so to speak. You can play the outfield back. Now the risk and reward here is that any diving catches in the outfield become singles because you're playing back, so there's no chance to come in and make the diving catch. Doubles though become outs, and triple becomes a double. So on short fly balls, then you'll re-roll. There's kind of a 50-50 chance, I guess, on these rolls. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe there's a little better chance for a single than for making the out. But for a short fly ball, if that's what you got, you pulled the fly ball card, and it was a short fly ball, you would need to re-roll, and then you could see if the outfielder made the play. You can shift the outfield to the right. Same thing with plays down the line. A fly out that's down the left field line because you're shifted to the right. So a fly ball down the left field line, a bloop is going to be a single. So where maybe normally they would run and catch the ball, because the outfield is shifted this way and the ball's hit this way, that becomes a single. And so I try to put in some risk and reward. And what you're doing essentially is you're looking at the situation and you're playing appropriate cards for the situation. And the situation again is determined by this situation card, and what situation you're put in as the manager. So 2 outs and bases loaded, you don't necessarily have to do much. But that's a good one. Okay, so nobody out, but a runner on second. How do you want to play that? The offense has some options. They can bunt. They can bunt for a hit. They can do nothing and just swing away. The defense has some options as well. If this is nobody out in the top of the ninth inning, the bottom of the ninth inning, the runner on second base, that's going to change how you're playing, right? As opposed to the first inning. So I tried to capture some of the decisions that you'd be making in a baseball game as a manager. And I love the interaction of making the choice and seeing if that choice affects the outcome of the inning, and kind of the fatalism in some ways of the manager's decisions. It's a unique game. Maybe you all have seen some manager games. I haven't seen very many. And this is more along the speed of what I wanted to do whenever I was making quick play. It just wasn't quite there yet. The idea was there, but the whole thing wasn't there yet. So yeah, here's all the components here. Yeah, hopefully you're kind of excited about the idea, the prospect of a new type of game. So these components here, and then we have these here, and then sort of the larger play here. So all these will, well, for the demo at least, will be released as PDFs. I don't know how to necessarily release the game, but these are cards that you can use over and over, and essentially you would be let's see. I'm just trying to see if I have a roster here. So these are the quick play rosters. This is 1991, and you can see that there are star players here. This newer version, the Tabletop Manager, won't have star players. but they will have, each player will have a rating. I'm not sure if I'm going to release and just rate all of the players on the team that year, everybody with at least 20 at bats or 20 innings or something like that. And then you'll just have all the players to be able to replay. But essentially, you'll be able to make out your own lineups here. This is like a real quick play game. You could just gather all the pieces and start playing. So it'll be a little bit different, but sort of similar. And I'll release a season at a time. I'm hoping for the Tabletop Manager, and that'll have all your players rated for the different batting runs ratings for each player. And we'll have the situation cards and then all of the different manager cards as you want to play it. What I've been using for markers is just dimes, so small coins. Seems to work well. And I've been rolling dice with an online roller, just 2d6s. That's all you need. You could also take two stacks of 2 to 6, or I'm sorry, ace to 6 cards. So the ace is the 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so you have 2 decks of those. And then you flip one for one number, and you flip one for the other number. Add those two numbers together, and you get the roll number. So you could play with standard deck of cards if you wanted, or you can roll dice. Rolling dice seems to be a little bit easier because you have to shuffle the cards each time. So I hope that's a good introduction to the game. It doesn't make sense, so I'll just try to play a game at some point and demo it. But hopefully when you see this and then you see the demo, you'll be like, oh, okay, all right, I see how the game flows now. So, and then hopefully you can see how these cards would shift and change the game, right? So each game is going to be different based on the situations that come up and the opportunities that each team gets. You know, if you're pulling cards like this all the time with nobody on and 2 out, it's going to be really difficult for you to score. But you know, on the other hand, if you're pulling cards like this where runners are on base constantly, you know, you're getting 2 on with nobody out consistently, or bases loaded with 1 out, you know, your odds of scoring go up, right? So there's some randomness there, and each game that I played so far seems to be in line with what you would expect from a baseball game. So I'm pleased with the results so far, and I'll create a video showing that game, just showing a game being played between 2 teams. It'll be cross era because it's based on batting runs. So the batting run stat is, you know, a 30 plus in 1918 is the same as a 30 plus in 2021. That's the beauty of sabermetric stats, is that you can really pit different teams across eras, and you can compare players that way. So so it is cross era, and the game will be easily sort of converted to older seasons because everybody has a batting runs number, even all the way back to the very, very old days. And I haven't quite figured out pitching yet and how pitching might affect that. So I'm hoping when people are playing the demo that that pitching will be something that can be worked into the game somehow. Not exactly sure how that's gonna be added in, but I'd love to hear thoughts and ideas once people get their hands on it and can play it a little bit. And not sure when the game will actually come out, how long it will take. I think there's probably a lot of massaging that needs to happen with not just the look and feel, but you know, some of the outcomes. And I'm sure there's a million things I didn't think about. Yeah. So that is called, it's going to be called Tabletop Baseball Manager. And hopefully in the next year or so, it'll be ready for actually purchase. But right now, it's sort of in the creation demo stage, but I wanted to get that out there, and maybe you get a little bit excited, and then when the demo comes out, you'll be ready to try it out. So love to have people try it out and tell me what they think. All right, so that's Tabletop Baseball Manager. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can. I'll try to put out as much content as I can. I've got multiple outlets to get information out, and that's just one of them. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.